Okay, first of all, it's a very good afternoon to all of our listeners, whether you are listening it from Pakistan, Israel, or from China, or from wherever you are joining us. Okay, from where you are joining us. Now it's our pleasure today that we have got the Nekam cards with us, especially from the Israel, and I think there are many misconceptions, especially about of the people of Pakistan. If we talk about generally about the Israel, and I think players that somebody from the armed forces of the Israel, he has come along with us, and I hope that at the end of this our conversation interview, we will be able to overcome those misconceptions. So, sir, first of all, a very warm welcome to our show, and I think we will let's start with the introduction. Sir, would you like to have a brief introduction of yourself so that our listeners could understand and they could get a brief introduction about yourself? I've given a brief introduction. You're retired, colonel, retired from the armed forces. Sir, please, if you would like to add something to you, are more than welcome.
First of all, thank you very much for having me on the show. Please try to speak slowly so that we can overcome accent barriers. So please try to speak slowly, but I did understand. So thank you very much for having me on your show. I see that in Pakistan, there's a lot of people who have these kinds of shows, and I think it's a very nice idea to try to have as many people, as many points of view, listen, ask in person, and know from first hand people with whatever view they are. And even if you don't agree with what somebody says, or even if you think that there is what he's saying is completely not true or not accurate, it is very nice to listen to it. Then you can have people react, talk, correct whatever misconceptions there are. And there are so many misconceptions that it's terrible, and it's very natural. Misconceptions are very natural because it depends on where you take your information from and how open your mind is to hear other people. So if to introduce myself, I'm an Israeli coach. I was born in Romania. It's a long story how I came to Israel, but it's a very fascinating story. And it has to do with who I am today because it is shaping my existence. The way that we came out of socialist Romania at the age of 14, and the way that I grew up having on my head, you might say, having the shadow of Holocaust and family, my big family lost in the Holocaust. This is something that is shaping my identity. So I never planned to be in the military. I did plan to do military as everybody else because military is mandatory in Israel for 3 years for men. But I ended up spending 22 years there, and I never intended to. I never thought I will spend 22 years in the military. And today I'm a coach. I was a high school principal. I was a boarding school principal, and I was a manager of many non-profits. One non-profit was to promote peace through martial arts. The other non-profit had to do with lone soldiers who serve in Israel, but they have no families in Israel. And I do a lot of other things. But the most important thing is that I'm a grandfather of 3. And that's the most important.
That's great, sir. Sir, here I just come to my second question. Sir, how was the experience spending after 22 years in the armed forces and then coming towards this life coaching experience and then doing the principal of different institutions? So don't you think it's altogether a different ball game? Everything has changed. Sir, how you find it your second phase of your life?
First of all, if I had a few more lives, then I would probably do more things. But it's a very good question. I found it very natural, but you are absolutely right about asking about it, because for a lot of people who came out of the military, I came out a colonel, a full colonel. So that is that's a high rank. It's almost general.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you are used to tell people what to do, and they do it. And you have in the last unit, in the last unit that I was in charge of, there were 2,000 soldiers, 400 officers. So everybody is doing what you want and what you decide, and so this, as you say, it's a completely different ball game, especially in life coaching when you are one-on-one, really. So it's your personality against, you might say, the other personality, or with the other personality, but there are no ranks. There is knowledge, there is heart, and like now, for example, Saif and yourself, you don't care that I'm a colonel. It's not relevant to our discussion. We need to be able to come across to each one's heart and mind by what we say, by how we say it, etc. So I found it fascinating and easy. But I was not, the clue is that I was not the classic officer in terms of giving orders and that's it. I always tried, I was what they call here educational type of officer. So I always tried to mentor people, convince people. In the end you have to make decision and they will do what you say. But you're right, it's a very different ball game. But I found it fascinating and easy.
Yeah, sir, I said a different ball game because of the reason that here you have to convince the people. There you don't need to convince the people. There you have to just give the order and they have to obey it whatsoever, they like it or they don't like it. Therefore, we're saying it's a different ball game. But sir, great, you have just said very well, and I've listened to the last interviews, and I think you are convincing power and you express the things that is extraordinary. And I can very well imagine how your military experience would have been, where you just need to give one order. So that would have been even better than this one. I can understand.
But
okay,
I'll tell you,
sir.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Sir, now this brings me to another, sir. My third question.
Wait a second. Wait a moment. I want to comment on what you just said. It is not true that you give one order and you finished it. It's not true, because even in the military, first of all, I served in many other managerial positions, and
right, sir.
Yeah, and so you also, if you're a school principal or a non-profit director, you still give orders, you make decisions, and people have to do it or they go home. So it's almost like the military. But the thing is that everywhere, even in the military, if you gave an order and people don't really understand, identify, and want to do it, then they will not do it perfectly. So for that, even in the military, there is the clear order and there is the intention. So, for example, if I asked Saif to have a few words before we go live. Why? Because I wanted to understand where he's going, who he is. I wanted him to know who I am. You see, because once you understand the intention, then you can work towards that goal, even if you don't follow exactly what the other guy told you. So, for example, there's a joke that journalists and politicians, they say the journalists ask whatever they want, and the politicians answer whatever they want. So, but when it depends on the intention. So if my intention is to brag about myself, of how smart I am, how good I am, I don't care about what you ask. I will answer your questions, but I will ask them in a way that follows my intention. So even to sum this up, in every managerial position, you have to make sure that the other side, they don't have to agree, but they have to either go home or go to jail or follow your order. But you have to make sure that they understand your intention, that your intention is pure, clear, right, good, and that they completely identify, or more or less identify, with the cause and with what you want them to do, and then they will do it 200% better.
Right, sir. Sir, now we are moving towards the one peak question. Before asking that question, sir, I want to say you sorry if you mind it, and I want to say it sorry in advance to you. Sir, but this is a very important question. If I will not ask you this question, I think this will be unjust with the people listening us, and many people
Speak
has
slowly.
requested to ask this question.
Speak slowly, please.
Okay, sir. Okay. Sir, my question is that the people of Israel, now what we Muslims believe, we Pakistanis believe, that Israel is doing not justice with the people of the Palestine, right? And their armed forces. They believe they've occupied their land. Now they want to make their own country. So this is one of the main reason why the Muslims and the people of Pakistan talk about, let's make it people of Pakistan. Sir, this is the main misconception. Sir, would you like it to clear it that what this issue is all about? I hope when you will clear it, many things will become clear. But sir, would you elaborate this whole issue of the Israel and the Palestine?
Again, the last part of the question, the last sentence, ask please. The last.
Sir, I was just, yeah. Sir, I was just saying, will you elaborate this all Israel-Palestine issue?
Well, we need for that 3 hours.
In short, I know I need a lot of time, but sir, the way how you convey and you summarize it, I want that answer, sir.
I'll tell you. First of all, please. You can ask any question that you want. You cannot understand or solve this problem. There is a problem, okay, and
right,
it needs to be solved. But you cannot answer or understand or solve this problem without going into deep history.
Right, sir. Right, sir.
So now it depends on where you start the history. If you look at the history 10 minutes ago, then you see a strong Israeli army doing bad things to Palestinians, but you also see Palestinians hiding themselves behind children, bombing, killing people. You see all this. But the media usually, and also in Pakistan, from what I understood, they don't show both sides. They only show one side.
Right.
They only show Israelis killing Palestinians. Okay?
Exactly. Right, sir.
So first of all, even if you look 10 minutes ago, it is not a full picture. The full picture is, yes, that there is a strong Israeli army. There is a less strong, let's say, Palestinian army in front of us, or some people call some of those organizations peace fighters, but some people call them terrorists. Okay, so now I don't even want to go into the politics of who calls who what, but if I take Pakistan, is there a group, don't even tell me their name, is there any group that you would call a terrorist group in Pakistan that is working against Pakistan? Don't tell me the name. Is there any group like that?
Sir, I think that again it's going to be a very difficult to comment. Sir, if you believe this particular group is a terrorist, I believe no. It's, sir, again it's going to be again definition, and it depends on their ultimate goals. Maybe you think that these goals are against and you call terrorists. I think these goals are very much familiar with us. We will not call it a terrorist. So again, this definition will going to create.
What I'm trying to say, I'm not going to say who's right and who's wrong. No, that's not. We will not solve the problem. We can only.
Yeah, exactly. Sir, I just want to give one example before going ahead. I just want to give one example. Now, let's take the example of the Kashmir. Now, we say the people of the Kashmir, they are the freedom fighter. The opposite party, whosoever he is, India or so on, the list goes, whosoever is, they believe that no, they are not the freedom fighter, they are the terrorists. So this is where I think even it's become a global issue to define terrorism, what the terrorism is. Now, with, according to our definition or our belief thinking, Kashmiri are the freedom fighters. Now, what the other side of the picture is, they think they are terrorists.
Fine. So of course you're right. Of course you're right, and that is a big issue. What is terrorism? So, is terrorism when you have a good cause, a completely wonderful cause, and you are absolutely right, and people took your land and your right, etc., etc. Is it is it freedom fighting to kill other children, innocent children? I don't even want to argue.
Not.
I don't know. It's no.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we understand that calling somebody terrorism or calling somebody freedom fighter is problematic. So for if we take the picture of Gaza today and we see an Israeli plane bombing, but we don't see Israeli kids peeing in their pants at night because they are frightened of balloons and bombing, etc., and rockets and thousands of rockets in the last 10, 15 years that flew into civilian population, then we understand that it is not exactly A or B or C. This is one. Two.
Absolutely.
So now you mentioned that the picture in Pakistan is that Israel is taking their land, the Palestinians' land. Okay?
Sir,
so now we need to go back a little bit, a few more years, and to start to, is it relevant or is it important whose land it is? So when you go back 2,000 years, you understand that it was Jewish land, Israeli land, so to speak.
Right,
and that there is no such people as Palestinians. Yes, the Palestinians started in 67, 68, in the 60s, but even if you go to talk about Al-Aqsa and all sorts of things, it depends on how long you go back. If you go back long enough, if you go back only 1,000 years, there was no Islam. Zero Islam.
Right.
So
okay.
So in order to solve or understand this problem, you need to do two things. One, understand all the past, all the history, and then understand the present. If we look now only to the present, we still have a big problem that needs to be solved. How it will be solved depends a lot on what we will be talking about. So when I have a lot of Pakistani friends who I chat with on Messenger or this or that, and we talk about issues and they ask questions, tough questions, and I answer. So yes, there is a problem that needs to be solved. If you take two random representatives, one Israeli, one Palestinian, the Israeli will tell you, usually, but for a small group of extremists, I call them extremists, 70, 80% of the Israelis will tell you, yes, there is a Palestinian issue, and the Palestinian people in Gaza and in the West Bank need a state, and need a free state, a good state with education, money, jobs, to live in peace, because we all have children and grandchildren, and they need to be in peace. There is no question about that. And most of the Israelis, the 70, 80, 90% of the Israelis, it doesn't matter which party they are, they will tell you, yes, they need a country, they need a state. And it is probably in these lands, Gaza, West Bank, wherever, okay? But when you ask the average Palestinian guy, many times, the opposite will happen. So most of the Palestinians will tell you that Israel has no right to exist. For example, I was speaking with a Pakistani gentleman. We were chatting on Messenger. And I asked him what, you asked me who I am. I told you I come from Romania. I'm a coach. I did this, I did that. And I asked him what he does. And he said that he's heading an organization that creates educational content or public relations for the Palestinian cause. Fine. So I look at the Facebook page. It's okay. It's no problem. We don't believe in the same things. It's fine. It's perfectly fine.
Right.
And they need money, they need fundraising, it's perfectly all right. And then I asked him I was looking up to his organization's Facebook page, and I saw that there is a map of what you call Palestine. And you listen, Malik?
Yes, sir, please go ahead. Yes, sir, please go ahead. Yeah, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
So it's very important. So I'm looking into his Facebook of his organization, and I see one image of a Palestinian map. What is a Palestinian map? It's the map of Israel. It's the map of Israel with no Israel on it. There was only 3 towns, Haifa, Jaffa, which were in part Arab towns before 48. And on the whole map, there is flowers in the north, flowers in the south, and the big word of Palestine. No Tel Aviv, no Jerusalem, no Nahum Katz, nobody. So how do you start a conversation when this is the beginning? So I'm fine. I'm talking now to Saif. I'm talking to Malik. They know I'm Nahum Katz. I live in Israel, not in Palestine. I live in Israel. And we have a problem that we need to solve because there are a lot of unhappy people on both sides. There are children who cry on both sides. There are mothers who cry on both sides. There is a stupid war that costs billions of dollars that we could put into education on both sides. So now we need to talk. So the basic is that I say, if we are doing this conversation, there is no question in my mind that Malik is a legitimate gentleman on this earth. And Saif is a legitimate human being on this earth. And Nahum also has to be a legitimate guy on this earth. And now we're talking differences, that's fine.
Right.
Okay, you understand my point?
Yeah, absolutely, I understand your point. So now, in short, without going to details, sir, I think if some young boy of either he's a sister, a brother, or a daughter, or a boy of Israel that is against the humanity, if it's the adult of the Palestine, if he is killed, I believe it's also against the humanity. Wherever there is a loss of life, either from this side or either from that side, both is against humanity. So what do you think? What is going to be the best solution to end this conflict, sir? Because bloodshed, war is not in the favor of the people of Israel even. It's not in the favor of the people of Palestine. So, sir, let's finish it for once and for all. What do you think? What is the best solution?
The best solution is to talk slowly.
If this is the best solution, I will try to act on it now.
Okay, I'll tell you what I think is the best solution. The reason, I'll tell you, with this gentleman that I spoke with, that I gave the example about the map, okay? I am the one who made a mistake.
Right,
okay? I made a mistake. What is the mistake? The almost third or fourth sentence that I spoke out, instead of, who are you, Saif? Who are you, Malik? Where do you live? Tell me about your life. Tell me, I see behind you, Malik, I see a building. Tell me about the building. Tell me about where you live. Tell me, what is that green behind you? Is it a fruit tree? Do you like that tree? Do you eat from it? Who are you? Instead of that, in less than 2.5 minutes, I asked him about the map. I said, hey, how come there is a Palestinian map and no Israel on it? So what he did, immediately stopped talking to me.
Right, sir.
So now, it gives you a hint as to what is the solution. In one moment, I will get to the solution, but I'll give you one more answer. I had another gentleman talking with me. He started to talk with me about all kinds of crazy Jewish or non-Jewish lunatics, crazy people that have all sorts of crazy ideas, which are a very, very, not even a minority. Most of the people want to live in peace. They want to have children. They want to have grandchildren. They want to go to enjoy good food and a drink and music and have a good life, and then go to Allah when our time is coming. So he started immediately talking to me about all kinds of stupid nonsense of people that want to take over the world, Jewish people that want to take over the world, etc., etc. Instead of that, The answer, and this is the answer to your question, the answer is slowly, very, very patiently do exactly what you two guys are doing now. Talk to an Israeli, talk to a Palestinian, talk to another Israeli, another Palestinian, ask them questions, get to know them, know their wives, know their children, their hopes, their fears, okay? I was a military officer for 22 years. I had enough of that.
Right, sir.
It's bad.
Right,
It's
sir.
no good. It's no good. That's why I'm coaching people. I'm trying to give people hope. It takes a long time, a lot of patience, a lot of smiles. And yes, in the end, we have to get to a very hard problem. Dividing land, dividing power, dividing a lot of stuff, or making something new. You know, in Singapore is one of the countries in the world that are expanding in land. You hear me? Without a war. They take land.
Absolutely, sir.
They take land, they put it in the sea, and they are growing their country into the sea. So they are creating land from nothing. But you cannot create land only by taking land. So if you're not creating new land by putting land into the sea and building on it, you have to agree on something. So there are 2 million Palestinians here, 9 million Jews and Arabs and Druze and Christians in the state of Israel. We all live together. We have to solve this problem very soon. I'm not optimistic. It will take time, but what is the solution? Doing what you do. Talk to people, listen to people, open your heart. It takes a long, long time. And there are other solutions that you can do. You can give money, you can support people, etc., etc. But when you give money and it goes to underground tunnels to attack you from them, you don't want to give money. So it's very, very complicated. It's much complicated. You cannot solve it without looking back to the whole history. But if you're looking at the present, you need to talk to people, listen to people, get together, work together, smile together, sing together, and then we can quarrel together. You know,
absolutely right, sir.
The easy way to quarrel is to be very, very good friends. My wife and I,
sir,
we know from the age of 14. From the age of 14, we know. Okay, so we've been now 41 years married, and we know each other for 50 years. And we sometimes quarrel, we sometimes fight. The solution to our fight is our very, very strong friendship that we built along the years. So when you love somebody, when you respect somebody, when you're good friends with somebody, then you can fight, because you know that after the fight will come a hug.
Absolutely agree, sir. Absolutely, sir. I think if the people like us, we start giving awareness, but if people like you, they start coming on the channels like this and start giving the true pictures. Because right now, sir, I will not blame the Pakistani that they are against Israel. What they are feeding upon, they just know there are two parties. One is innocent, and one is they got the world's superpower backing. They got the world's latest weapons, and on the other side, they are innocent people, and they are just doing against all of them. They want to occupy their land. Sir, in these circumstances, who will favor? I think absolutely 100% sympathy will go with the people of Palestine. But I think the people like you and many more, they will come, they will tell, and I think then the situation will improve. And then our ultimate goal is also, as you mentioned, your ultimate goal is the peace. Let's forget about Israel. Let's forget about Palestine. Let's talk about the humanity. Ultimate goal is peace.
I think we lost you. We lost connection. Saif? Saif? Malik?
I'm hearing you. I can listen to you, but let's wait for Malik. Maybe he will be.
Yeah. You have to tell him to talk slowly, because people are, by the way, people are listening through my Facebook as well. They are listening to these shows and to these interviews, and they often tell me that they could not understand the other side. Now, when you speak slowly and clearly, it's much easier. I'm sure that my accent is not easy for you. and we are not used to the accent, the Pakistani accent. So, but yeah, he's saying true things. But saying that one side is innocent and the other side is not, it's not the accurate picture. The problem is that, you know, it is like you go into a delivery room where women give birth to children. Okay, you're with me?
Yes,
okay. So when you go into a delivery room in a hospital, you do not hear the stories about the thousands of normal children that were born. You hear only the crazy stories that somebody who was born with 3 heads or with 6 legs or something like that. So it's not interesting to the media. Media has a direction. Media in Pakistan wants to tell a story. Media in Romania or in Israel or in the territories or in Palestine, they have a different story. So really the story is the story of the people, and the people on both sides are suffering. People on both sides are not happy. People on both sides want lives, good lives for their children, good futures for their grandchildren. When I joined the military, I was hoping that my daughters will never have to go to the military. Now I have a grandson, he's a boy. I have 2 girls, two granddaughters. My grandson is 7. He was 7 last week. I am afraid that he will have to go to the army. He will have to go to fight. Why? All this. I spent 22 years in the military. I did what I had to do, and I tried to do it humanly. You know, sometimes you do things. When you shoot at people, it's no good. It's no good. It's never good. But I was hoping that 50 years later, 60 years later, he will not have to go to the military. There will be peace all over the place. And it's not happening. So it's a tough one. It's a very tough one. But you guys, what you guys are doing is wonderful. And Malik had wonderful questions. And I can only commend you and thank you very much for this opportunity to talk, to listen to each other. I'll tell you, I am much more curious to interview you guys. It's very interesting for me because in these interviews, you always kindly allow your guests to elaborate, to speak, to present their views. And I think that you and Malik are not less interesting in the story. And why, for example, I don't know why Pakistanis care about this problem. There in Pakistan, you have 150 or 200 million people. Why on earth do you care about the stupid little problem that there is? I'm not saying it's not a problem. It's a big problem. But when you compare it, 9 million Jews or 7 million Jews are quarreling with 2 million Palestinians. What is it for you? Why do you care in Pakistan when you have with 200 million people, you have poverty, you have problems, you have economic problems, political problems, Hindu problems, Kashmir problems, India problems. What do you care about this stupid little Palestine? So stupid little, I'm just joking. But so I have also 1,000 questions to you guys, but it's very interesting to be on your show, and it's very kind of you to have asked me to do this. And so I'm very thankful. And I'm looking forward. I'm willing to answer tough questions. There are no easy answers. One of the guys who interviewed me a while ago, he said, no, forget the past. Now there is a problem. I said, yes, of course there is a problem, but does it matter how it happened? If I take your shirt, okay, I take your shirt away, and now it's mine, and somebody comes and sees us now. He sees you without a shirt, me with your shirt, and he says, it doesn't matter what the past, who started, what they said, why did you take his shirt, who is right, who is wrong. Now he's without a shirt, you have a shirt, it has to be sold, give him back the shirt. It's not always that simple. Sometimes I take the shirt that was my father's and you took it 5 years ago or whatever. So you have to look into the past. You have to understand the past. You have to learn from the past. But yes, you have to solve the present. There's no question about it. And you will find very few Israelis, if at all, that will say, no, Palestinians don't deserve a life. They are not a people. They are not a nation. They don't need to have a country. And if they have, years ago, people used to say there are 22 Arab countries with 150 or maybe the billion and more Muslims. Why they don't take them? 2 million people. Why they don't take them? No, I don't say that. There is a problem here. This is where they were born. Some of them 600, 700 years ago, families, they had land, they had property. Yes, there are problems. There are refugees. There were refugees, not the number that they claim to. But so there are issues. But you cannot overlook the past and say the Israelis took the land, etc. There is a history to it. You know, in 1948, when the United Nations made the partition plan, and they said, hey guys, just exactly like Pakistan and India, there was a partition plan, and they said, Jews, Arabs, will you accept this part or this part? The Jews said yes, although historically the piece of land that was given to them by the United Nations in 48 was smaller than what we have today. But we said yes. The Arab nations said no, they didn't accept it. And five armies from every direction invaded the new state of Israel, and they went to war. Unfortunately, they lost. And then there started all this refugee question. So the questions are very complicated, but the only way to solve them is by talking, by meeting, but knowing each other, and remembering the past, learning from the past, and finding a good future where is a win-win. Win-win is not always 50-50. So, for example, you wanted me to do an 8 p.m. Show. I couldn't. Then I said, well, let's do a 1 p.m. show or 2 p.m. show, and you couldn't. Because I said, in the end, we found something that worked for both of us, and here we are now 37 minutes and we're talking. So we need to be creative. We cannot overlook the other side. We cannot say they don't exist. We cannot make a map where there's no Palestinians or there's no Jews or there's no Israel. The reality is here. We are here together. We need to solve it. But we need to, as I said, know the past very well, exactly, understand the present, solve it in order to create a future.
Yes, no, you told that why Pakistani people, 250 million people or 200 million people, they are talking about 2 million Israeli. I don't know what Pakistani will comment it, but my emotions, why I think about Palestine, why my passion, my feelings, my heart just beat with Palestine. Why, as a Muslim, I think this is my feelings which just generated. Aqsa is important because in Islam there is importance of Aqsa. We love Aqsa very much because after Kaaba, Baitullah, which is in Saudi Arabia, Aqsa is the first one Kaaba. So we love a lot about Aqsa, and we can even we are so beloved with that Aqsa that we can sacrifice ourselves, our lives for the sake of Aqsa. This is what my emotions are. This is what all Pakistanis, I don't know, but this is my emotions about this.
But I'll tell you, Saif, if we go into the Al-Aqsa question,
yes,
it's a very tough one. It's a very tough one not because of the importance, but because, again, if you learn the history and you look at the scientific research, you will find, I'm not saying it's one-sided. I'll give you one answer, and you will not like it. A lot of research, non-Jewish research, not Israeli research, world research says that the Al-Aqsa that is mentioned in the Quran is in Saudi Arabia, not in Jerusalem. So there's all sorts of information there. And again, this is very important to your heart. So I don't want to go there. Again, we can quarrel after we become friends. But if you go and look for yourself, and you look for serious historical data, and research, you will find at least 2 different opinions. And you will find that not before 1880 or 1900, you will not find before 1900 almost a mention of Al-Aqsa as the holy place for Islam in Jerusalem, Palestine. You will find that Hajj Amin al-Husseini, who was the Mufti of Jerusalem, he started these ideas early in his career, and that in 800 and 900 and 1000, Al-Aqsa, the holy third place for the Islam, they referred to a place, I don't remember the place exactly now, but I can tell you, that is in Saudi Arabia. And it makes sense because Muhammad never came to this place, to these places. Yes, there is a belief that he went up to heaven from this place, but there is no historical proof. And belief is belief. That's not a question. And where is that Al-Aqsa exactly located? It's in if you go to archaeology, you find that Al-Aqsa is in the south of the whole mountain. And today, in the last 100 years, they call the whole mountain Al-Aqsa, which is not true. The whole mountain is Har HaMoriah, the mountain of Moriah, is where Abraham sacrificed his son. Now, can you prove historically that Abraham went to exactly this place? No, you cannot either. But if you look to historical research, you will find that there is at least 2 different ways of discussing where exactly is that Al-Aqsa that is indeed the third most important place for Islam. So, and that already involves politics. So what I say is that we have to, that's what I learned from the last few months of discussing with Palestinian and Pakistani friends, that one, you have to be very, very careful with data. Not people don't want to hear data that they don't like. So if I tell you that Al-Aqsa is not holy, it's terrible. It's very hard for you to listen. It's like you would tell me that there is no Israel and you show me a map with Palestine only. And you know that there is a 3,000-year history of Jews in this land, kingdom of David and kingdom of Solomon, and Moses coming from Egypt and all that, where there is historical data and excavation, etc., etc. So I think that to these very sensitive issues of religion, of belief, of Al-Aqsa, of the Western Wall that is so sacred to the Jews, which the Western Wall is the wall of the kingdom of David. Where is it? Exactly where you say it is Al-Aqsa. So Al-Aqsa, if you agree that Islam was not there 1400 years ago, then you understand that there was no Al-Aqsa there, even if you believe that Al-Aqsa was exactly there. But you understand that Al-Aqsa was built on a Jewish place. Why? There is research. So it's very complicated. It's a very complicated issue. And what I suggest, and I recommend, that to these very delicate, very problematic issues, we should go last. So that's what for many years they were saying about Israelis and Palestinians for the leadership. They would say, first, build trust. Talk to people, make exchanges, work with each other. We used to have almost 500,000 Palestinian workers before the Intifada, before 87. 500,000 Palestinian workers used to come to Israel every day, work in our restaurants, work in our places, 500,000. And we didn't say that they are terrorists, but then came the first Intifada for whatever reasons. I don't blame them for the Intifada. I don't blame them. There is occupation, there was occupation, there are problems. But before the Intifada, we had 500,000 workers who made money here and brought money to their families. Now there is almost zero, 5,000, 10,000. So what they used to say then, they used to say, first build trust, then talk about the tough issues. Always and I didn't understand it also for some time. They said, leave the Jerusalem issue to the last. It makes sense. Let's make friends. Let's work together. let's be bind and intertwined all together until we cannot separate anymore. You know, like two strugglers, two people that do Budo, Bushido, you know, they do martial arts. They do wrestling, okay, Greek wrestling. And sometimes they are so intertwined into each other that they cannot separate. And the judge has to come and separate, okay? Let's become so intertwined, people to people, work with work, money issues, this issues, that issues, that we will not be able to separate anymore. Then let's talk about Jerusalem and Al-Aqsa.
Yes.
When both sides, just one more sentence. When both sides have a lot to lose, we will find a solution. You know, there are roads above roads, there are tunnels, there are islands in the sea. There's a lot of things that you can solve now. Look at this peace treaty with Bahrain and with United Emirates. In 1 second. Why? Because both sides want. So let us be intertwined completely, one with the other, and then we talk about the big issues. But first we understand that Palestinians have a right to a country and a state. Israelis have a right to live in peace and to be acknowledged. If the head of the Palestinian state says that Israel has no right to exist, or Iran says that Israel has to be wiped off the map, okay, how are we going to agree on Al-Aqsa, which is so hard? Leave Al-Aqsa to the end. We will find a solution. We can pray. I was in the military. I was in the army I was a guest in the American Army for almost a year as a student. And on the military base, they have a room which is both a mosque, a synagogue, and a church. At 10 o'clock, the Christians come to pray. Same room. At 10 o'clock, the Christians come. 2 o'clock, the Muslims come. I'm just making up the hours. On Yom Kippur, the Jews come. On Christmas night, the Christians come, etc., etc. No big deal. What's the problem? There's no problem. So Al-Aqsa can be solved. But when we start with Al-Aqsa, it's very difficult because people don't want to listen. They don't want to hear. But if I make friends with you, it will take time. But then when I know that you mean well, I know that you know that I mean well, we will find a solution. It's very hard.
Yes. Your prophets, Sayyidina Yaqub alayhi salam, Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, Sayyidina Sulaiman alayhi salam, Sayyidina Dawood alayhi salam, the father of Sulaiman. We love them, we respect them, so that's why, because you are the followers of those prophets and we believe on those prophets. So this is my feelings. Maybe Pakistani hate this. No, Israeli, we don't hate. But you are the follower of Sayyidina Yaqub. You are the follower of Sayyidina Yusuf, Sayyidina Sulaiman bin Dawood, They are the prophets we love a lot. Every time we say Salamun ala Dawood, Salamun ala Sulaiman, Salamun ala Yaqub, and what their character was, we can unbelievable. When we imagine those characters, we just cry in the night. We just cry. Their character was the sons of Sayyidina Yaqub. They are doing bad things, but Sayyidina Yaqub, they are not doing any wrong with those their sons, and even their beloved sons, Sayyidina Yusuf, they put it in the kuma, in the darkness. I forget the name. So, but Sayyidina Yaqub, they are doing patience. The sabr, they just patience, and the end result was he got wonderful outcomes from this patience, from this from this humanity, the character as a human being. So this is what I love. I love you. You love Sayyidina Yaqub, Sayyidina Sulaiman bin Dawood. We love them, and that's why we love you also as well. This is my feeling, not for Pakistani. This is just my feeling.
I'll tell you, as long as there is blood in the streets, it doesn't matter on which side. It is very hard to start these human relations. There is the group that Rihanna Lawala was doing for Palestinian discussions. No Palestinian would come on live camera, zero. They don't want to. So it is very hard to create trust when there is blood on the street, when there's rockets flying. But if you want to solve the problems, you have to start with the small problems first. Who are you, Saif? Tell me about your family. What are you doing in your daily life? How can I help you in your daily life? How can you help me? Teach me a little bit about this show, about this StreamYard. How did you make the photo to become with light? The small things, the stupid things. When we build trust, and it takes time and patience, but patience is not enough. We need to do stuff. You know, if I have a dream to become president of the United States, okay, I cannot become because I'm not a US citizen. But if I have the dream of being the president of Israel, I can dream all day. If I don't do things, and that's what wonderful for what you do. You are doing something actually. You picked up the pen, you wrote me a message, you contacted me and you say, hey, Nahum, let's talk. And I'll listen to you, and you say whatever you want, and I don't have to agree, of course. There are a lot of people who will not agree with what I said. But we have to start with the small things first, and to get to the big problems in the end. But we have to be patient. I'm not sure that it will be in your lifetime or in my lifetime. But I certainly hope that your children and your grandchildren and mine will see peace.
Inshallah.
And
the other question is how you see your children in future, your grandchildren. I mean, how you want them to join army, or what you want, and how your vision transform humanity, how your vision impact my life, my Pakistani peoples, the world, the peoples around world. How you can transform your vision so that no border anymore, no border in future.
So I'll tell you what I did. Since my time is very limited, and even now we said that we will talk 30 minutes, and because of me, not because of you, because of me, we are talking 53 minutes already, which is beautiful from your side. The time, because I have to work, I have to provide for my family, I have to support my family, etc. So and I did not start with a vision to try to impact all of the world. It's very big, though. It's a beautiful dream, and I would love to do that. So what I did, I got maybe 400, 500 requests on Facebook to people. And as you see, even yours is not approved, but we still talk and make friendships. Why is not approved? Because Facebook is very limited. And you will not understand my Facebook because 95% of it is Hebrew. And the translation from Hebrew to Urdu or to anything else will be terrible, and even to English. So what I suggested LinkedIn, and I suggested to join a Facebook group, which I opened. I opened the Facebook group. I think you joined. Friends without limits or borders. And what I'm trying to do there, I want to start this week or next week, inshallah. This week is the new year in Israel. On Friday is the new year. It's a religious new year in Israel. So
New Year.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So and it's a very holy day and period. I'm not religious, but it's a very important time. So what I did is I opened this WhatsApp group, and in that WhatsApp group where we can talk in one place, a lot of people, and influence with ideas a lot of people. Again, going from the small things to the bigger things. But I offer a free course of personal development to people. It's a coaching process. I will open up my knowledge and give my knowledge and put it on the group and share it on public. So this is what I do. And I'm talking a lot of one-on-one discussions like this one, and on chats, on this, on that. And I hope to make an impact. Is it a big impact? No, but I don't have a lot of time. So in the little time that I have, I try to make meaningful connections. So when, for example, one of the young men, very young men, Pakistani young guys, a 14-year-old young man, he wanted my interview, okay? But he didn't care about me. He didn't understand the concept of let's talk, let's understand who you are, who I am, etc. He just wanted the interview for whatever reasons, maybe for a laptop, for whatever reason he wanted it. And he was not sensitive that this is a human connection, that you talk, I listen, I talk, you listen, and that we ask serious questions, etc. He just wanted to get on with the interview. And in the end, I ended up not giving him the interview, because I first want to know who is in front of me. I don't mind, as you saw, I don't mind answering the bad questions, the tough questions. I don't care. It's okay. But I want to respect my friend, and I want to be respected, not in terms of karam, of respect, but to be respected in terms of first let's meet, let's talk, let's understand. Then we'll talk about big questions. And if you just come with some questions ahead of time, look, even your friend, Malik, he had wonderful questions, but his questions came from listening. He said, oh, you've been for so long a military. Is it the same being in the military like being not in the military? So these are interesting questions and good questions. And I hope that we will build a better community. I think it's wonderful what you guys do. And I do hope that we will give more and more hope to more and more people around the world. You're losing me. You have a bad connection. The connection is bad. No, we cannot hear you. You're cut off all the time. So I suggest that we stop the live and the show, and we come back at a later time, unless your connection gets better. Your connection is no good, and I see your picture is blurred. So you probably have a connection problem. So I would suggest that we stop here. I also have to go and do some work. But thank you very, very much, Saif. Thank you very much. And may good peace be on all of us. And I wish you also a very happy New Year. And take care and thank you. Thank you so much.